Hi guys, and welcome to this Module C Craft of Writing Hacks and Tips video. I know it's getting close to your HSC. You're probably a bit nervous, and of course this is probably the most scrutinized section of the whole HSC. Remember this, it has two rubrics. Okay, you'll have the actual piece and the reflection, and potentially it won't be worth the same amount. So in terms of you getting your HSC right, don't forget this very important and technical section / module for your HSC, okay? Some people call this a make or break. I really think section 1, paper 1, unseen text reading and writing is the make or break, but in many ways, every piece is worth, similar points, so to speak, and they all should be taken very seriously. And there's so much strategy that goes around everything you do in theory, okay? So I'm sure you'll think about strategy. There's certainly strategy for this piece. So here we go. So I'm just going to read some of the notes that I've given my classes, and hopefully you can gain something from it. Number 1, sustained writing. You must write with sustenance in order to achieve your technical outcomes. For instance, let's say you want to have a nice and pronounced character arc. You can't do that in half a page or a page, or maybe for really skilled, but even I can, I have a degree in English like most teachers, and I can't write with a beautiful or having a character arc and write a page. It's not possible, okay? So really think about how fast and your ability to come with ideas quickly and get it onto a page. You really need to be hitting 2 pages for part A, okay? And then for the reflection in part B of the Module C Craft of Writing section, maybe 1.5 pages. That will really cover your bases, if I could say that, in terms of ticking off all those components of a reflection and a creative / discursive / persuasive, whatever piece you choose to write. Okay, point number 2. To really highlight your skill and confidence, I think, and this is just my personal thoughts, we're all different, okay? Imaginative or persuasive gives you the most scope to illustrate your flair. I think that discursive suits a particular writer, and as it becomes more popular, even trendy, there are strategies around its use, but in many ways it restricts writers. This is what I believe, and this is what I tell my class from what I've noticed from my class. It could be different for you. Your teacher will give you direction in regards to what suits you as they best know your skill set. Moving on. Here we go, the big one in terms of technicality. Imagery. It is so important to achieving the most crucial component in getting strong results, and that is engagement. In the end, your piece must be engaging. Create images with your pen and use techniques like simile and personification to achieve this. Now, I've given you some pretty basic premises here as examples, but for example, your protagonist is handsome and has caught the eye of the intended love interest in your text. Do not say that Marcus is handsome, for example, if Marcus is the name of your protagonist. No, you say, the glint in Marcus's eyes and his robust stance danced in my dreams all night. That is something that you might want to say. Stop telling, start describing, draw pictures with your pen. Here's another premise for you. A cliched police pursuit, if you're silly enough to do that. But let's just say I'm using a really cliched example and how you can change it to something that's almost worthy of decent marks. A cliched police pursuit and your central character is in the getaway car. Example of imagery, my hands are clammy. The sweat in between my fingers loses grip on the leather steering wheel. My heart races. My pulse beats out of my veins. The echoing siren rattles and hums around my brain. They're getting closer. And that's a bit better. Okay, rather than I'm in the car and here come the cops. Okay. Number 4, coherence, control, and flair. Is your writing coherent? Does it flow or is it clunky? Try to save 2 minutes at the end to read over it. If it is possible, whisper it, because when you're reading things over in your head, your brain sometimes fixes the error subliminally. But when you read out aloud, you will pick up on the grammatical and syntax issues. This is your HSC. Who cares if it's a little embarrassing to whisper things to yourself in that exam hall? As long as you're not bothering people next to you, then do it, please. Okay, next one. Here's a mild example of control and flair. You want to say that blue is your favorite color because you like it. No, don't say that. How about blue reminds me of pristine oceans and warm summer days? Or blue is like a warm hug from mum and a gentle smile from dad. Okay, some nice, color-based similes there for you. Number 4. This should be the biggest one, but because it's strategy, it's not like a writing skill, I put it as number 4, but strategy. Okay? Regardless if it's a skill or if it's strategy-based, it had a profound effect on the results of when I marked my classes practice Module C pieces for the HSC. Okay? The data suggests that many attempts will be half a page or less. You have to allocate the full 40 minutes to the section. If the section or module is worth 20 marks, give it the allocated time it deserves. Okay? Now, I'm guessing that you just mismanaged your time, and because it was a final section, you ended up with like 20 or 25 minutes. Don't do that. That's crucial. Okay? You have to have the full 40. So, let's just say, and my God, I hope it doesn't, but in the instance this happens again and you're left with 20 minutes for the section because you spent too much time in Module A or B, number 1, don't panic. Number 2, look at the mark breakdown. If creative is worth 12 and reflection is 8, then obviously you allocate your time accordingly, 12 and 8 minutes. And if it's a 40-minute time limit, well, then just divide it evenly. Look at the spread, do your maths. If it's a 12-8 breakdown in 40 minutes, you probably do 25 for the creative and 15 for the reflection. Okay? Now, there were some cases that gave themselves a full 40 minutes to write their creative piece, seemingly got carried away, wrote a 4-page creative and a 1-line reflection. These were the most infuriating and, really annoying pieces where the kid actually did really, really well, have genuine talent and ability, but just didn't think about how to break the sections down. Anyway, continuing on, okay? Be very careful on the day. There might be a 10-10 mark breakdown, 10 for creative and 10 for reflective rather than 12-8 as it was for standard. Think about it, okay? Don't just look at it and think 12-8. It might have changed for this year's HSC. We don't know. Okay, number 5, your prescribed text. How well do you know your prescribed text? How well do you understand it? How well do you remember it? Remember, the best responses make reference to their prescribed text in their reflection and, more importantly, how it influenced the stylistic features of their written pieces. Okay, now, here is an example of an intro that I gave to my class. It's completely made up. I just did on the spot, actually, in about 5 minutes, thinking of a made-up creative piece, and thus my reflection reflected that. Just follow on and you get what I mean. So here's the intro I gave to my class. Les Murray's An Absolutely Ordinary Rainbow influenced and motivated me to challenge the preconceived notion of the archetypal male stereotype in Australian society and its place within the status quo. Murray's delicate paradox of an ordinary rainbow allowed me to use the inner conflict within my central character as a vehicle for change in my discursive piece. The melancholy and at times somber tone of the poem could be easily detected in the narrative voice of my creative piece, which was achieved essentially through techniques based on comparisons, like similes and metaphors. I found these comparisons enable me to sculpt and create images that went far beyond my ability to replicate one's emotions and ideals in direct language alone. For instance, using the simile, the dire gaze of the onlookers pierced my resilience, which shattered like crystal on a slate floor. Okay, so there's an intro for you. The reason we have 2 prescribed texts in Module C is that it gives us greater scope, okay, in relation to a stimulus. For instance, my class did Paul Keating and Les Murray. And of course, at the end, guys, you have to quote yourself. How can you accurately reflect on your writing and not quote specific elements of your piece? For example, why use a simile in line 4 and why you might have had trouble shaping your metaphors in line 3. Okay? All right, guys. I did my best for you. I hope you can get a good mark in this year's HSC. I've worked really hard this year for my class and everyone else that follows me. So I really hope that you achieve all your outcomes. Thank you. Check you later.